Good morning. Ken Artizone here. I'm doing my seventh video on my top 50 favorite things in life. I did recently my top 50 movies of all time. I count down from 50 to number one. Check out the video. I've also done 5 other videos on baseball. My top 50 offensive players, my top 50 pitchers. I've done baseball records. I've been I've done baseball photographs, and I've done baseball achievements. So check out all those videos. I'm a retired landscape gardener. I worked 43 years in the business, and I wrote a book. I have some videos on my accomplishments in the life gardening business, landscaping. I worked in LA and San Diego and Vista, California. So check out that video. Today, I want to do a unique video on my top 50 television programs of all time, according to my list of what I enjoyed. You may agree or disagree, that's okay. But I'd like to tell you the reasons why I like these shows and see what you think, okay? I think the main thing in watching television is the series or the television show that is produced. Is it substantial? Are the actors convincing you that they are playing the part? Is the script compelling? Am I entertained? That's what television is about. You work all day, you come home, you relax in the chair, and you want to be entertained and also informed. And a lot of times television, which is fiction, gives you enjoyment and also gives you information. So before I start my list, let me list some television programs that are off my list. And you may question why. I'll give a couple of reasons. I started watching television in 1959. I was 5 years old at the time. I remember the shows that I saw as a kid was The Adventures of Superman. And I remember The Three Stooges. I remember Captain Kangaroo. That was like 5, 6 years old. I was kindergarten and first grade. So I did a Google search of all the television shows that have been produced for the past, say, 70 years when television has been on. I say about 1950 when we really started seeing series produced. And through the 50s, 60s, and 70s, there's a lot of classic shows that were on. Today, in the year 2000, 2010, and 2020, there's been some quality shows. So my top 50 has shows from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000, 2010. Very rare in 2020 is there any quality shows out. But some shows that I left off, I'll tell you why. Because they were not enthralling. Did not strike my enthusiasm. For example, Seinfeld and Frasier. I know a lot of people watched it, got good ratings. But to me, a few humor episodes here and there. But in the long run, it got tedious for me. So I left that off my list. I'll go down some of these other shows that I left off. Parks and Recreation, Big Bang Theory. This one's really popular. I couldn't get into it. Kind of slapstick to me. Modern Family, The Golden Girls. Golden Girls is for, for older ladies, senior citizens. As a young person, do I want to watch The Golden Girls? No, when it was on. I'm a senior citizen now. I don't have any interest in watching The Golden Girls. My apology if I offend anybody. The Addams Family. I watched a couple episodes. Kind of boring. The Munsters. Eddie Munster was a nuisance. No good. Petticoat Junction. Girls were pretty. That's about it. A train comes in. What are the scripts? Beverly Hillbillies. I admit, I watched a lot of the episodes. I loved Ellie Mae. Couldn't stand Granny. Couldn't stand Jethro. And Jed Clampett must be the slowest person ever to walk and speak on television. Sorry. Mr. Ed. A horse? A talking horse? Maybe 1 or 2 episodes, but that's it for me. Embarrassing. All in the Family. A little controversial, that show. Humor. I didn't laugh very much. Bob Newhart, Carol Burnett. A few chuckles here and there, but not for me. The Honeymooners. Oh my God. Jackie Gleason, Art Carney. Some laughs, but am I going to tune in? Is this something that I am eager to watch? Sorry. Simpsons, it's for kids. Andy Griffin, really, really slow and old. And Opie and the fishing, opens up with the fishing pole. Sorry, it's not on my list. 30 Rock with Alec Baldwin. This guy's a lunatic. He was married to Kim Basinger. How could you separate from her? Anybody who does that, he's off my list. The 70s Show, it really wasn't about the 70s. It was just slapstick. I couldn't laugh. Married with Children. The kids were awful in that show. Sorry. Roland and Martin's Laugh-In. I did watch some episodes. Richard Nixon was on that show. Said, "Sock it to me." But not on my list. Because too much sexual, crude humor on that one. The Office, same thing. Elevator scenes, sex. Desperate Housewives. That's embarrassing. Elevator lovemaking, strippers in neighborhoods, walking around the neighborhood nude. Yeah, real funny. I like crime shows, and I have some on my list. But I'm sorry, Dallas, Larry Hagman, The Cowboy Hat. Some good stories there, but couldn't keep my attention. Perry Mason through the 50s and 60s. Did you know that every single episode of Perry Mason, he won? I think there was one episode where it was a hung jury. But in Perry Mason, you knew the outcome. He won every case. But I do admit that there were good scripts in that show, and Raymond Burr was good. But he's not on my list of my top 50. Law and Order's been on for 20 years. And it's just the same old crime and bad guy, good guy, detective, and solve the crime. Good stories, but not on my list. Why? 20 years of just the same old. The Americans, they used, in that show, they used a girl who was Felicity. You remember Felicity show? They used her in The Americans. Some good stories about the Russians infiltrating the American soil and passing on information has an intrigue, but that show was violent and there's too much nude scenes and sex scenes. And in fact, one of the characters took a body, cut it up, and put it in a suitcase. Sorry, not my cup of tea. So the Americans was disgusting. Also, these HBO and Showtime shows, too much foul language and sex and violence and crude and disgusting. Now, you may argue that some on my list has that too, but my shows are a little bit more polished and distinguished. These shows, they just go for the shock value. Dexter, he kills everybody every episode with a knife and wraps them up in a plastic bag, and very graphic. Dexter. 6 Feet Under, Homeland. Homeland uses the F word every second word. Check out the episode and you'll see what I mean. And again, that show has some good storylines, but why do you have to shock the audience with vulgarity? So I left that off my list. Deadwood, don't get me started on that one. Rape, every episode is a rape. Rome, every episode is nudity. Supernatural, it's been on for a long time. Two guys solving the problem. A little boring sometimes. Lucifer, yeah, nice title for a show, Lucifer. Gotham, Breaking Bad, drugs. I know a lot of people like that show. I couldn't get into it. True Blood, vampires, Game of Thrones. I have not watched one episode of Game of Thrones, yet it's so popular among everybody. Why? It's too graphic, too vulgar, too demeaning to me. And I've just heard reports, and people have said, have you seen the episode? And I said, should I? Do you recommend I do? And everybody says, if you don't like graphic violence, don't watch it. So I stayed away from that one. House of Cards, Kevin Spacey. We know what kind of a lunatic he is. Some good stories, but not realistic. The president killing people. Oh, so I'll tell you what. Graphic violence, vulgarity, nudity, indecency, filth, obscene, profane, and slicing throats. Sorry, it's not my cup of tea. So, how about The Sopranos? Some people rave over these episodes. I saw one episode where they took a Lexus, brand new, $60,000 car, and they smashed it. That turned me off. I have a Lexus. After that, I never watched The Sopranos again. West Wing was too liberal, too democratic, and the worst show on TV, in my opinion, Sex and the City. That is embarrassing, irksome, and downright mortifying. Another show everybody liked was Friends. A few chuckles here and there, but these friends, all they talk about is sex. And then the next episode is nudity. And then the next episode is who are you dating? And the next episode is who are you sleeping with? And then the next episode is a sex joke. You think I'm exaggerating? It's slapstick. And did you hear the soundtrack on Friends? Every sentence, there's a soundtrack of a laugh. Rachel will say, are we going around the corner? Soundtrack, laugh. Are we going up the hill? Soundtrack, laugh. Are we going to the restaurant? Soundtrack, laugh. If you don't believe me, in a 30-minute episode, the laughter consumes 22 minutes of the 30 minutes. You think I'm exaggerating? Check it out. Another mortifying show is The Walking Dead. It had a good premise, the apocalypse and the end of the world, and humans kind is no more, and you've got these zombies walking around. But why is every episode you have to show the gore and the flesh and the gouging of eyes and chopping off of heads and shoot them up, bang them up, and then they'll have a pause for 10 minutes, and then they'll start the zombies up again, and another gore, and cut out the eyes and slice the throat and all that. Walking Dead. Sorry, off my list. How about the show House? That guy, the Dr. House, he's an absolute idiot. Watch the show. He disrespects everybody. So forget that one. Battlestar Galactica. This show is so far out in space, forget it. The Wire deals with drugs. Bones, dealing with dead skeletons. I like some episodes, but the main character is an atheist. Sorry, it turns me off. Charlie's Angels, they're embarrassing. Watch them fight, watch them kick, watch them throw a punch. Girls are pretty, but off my list. Chicago Hope, it does not compare to ER. ER is on my list. Chicago Hope, forget it. The Closer, Cold Case, not much to it. There was a show called Combat. I liked it. That was the war, and each episode had war situations. I like that one. Dawson's Creek and Roswell for teenagers. Kind of sappy, puppy love. Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. The guy, Jane Seymour was a good actress. And the Western theme, but Sully, couldn't stand him. Need a haircut. How about Flipper and Sea Hunt? A dolphin for Flipper. You want to tune in each week to watch Flipper? How about Sea Hunt? Every episode you go underneath the water and you see the octopus or scorpions or whatever's under the water. Sea Hunt. It's too wet, pardon the pun. Fringe belongs in another universe. Had no idea what that was. Hawaii Five-0. I love the scenery, but not much scripts to that one. Gilmore Girls, just two girls fighting all the time. The mother and the daughter. Grey's Anatomy. It's been on a long time. And again, that's just to show that they'll show some medical stories, which are interesting, but then they'll get into the lovemaking in the hospital room. And then you go home and sex. And then you come back to the hospital, and then who's sleeping with who? And then there's a cute doctor and a cute this and that. ER has more of the quality scripts. Grey's Anatomy, you're off my list. Why? Couldn't stand the lead character, Meredith. And Dr. Streamy, Mimi, embarrassing, sorry. How about Have Gun Will Travel? It was a chess match, but kind of faded out. Hogan's Heroes made fun of the military. So did MASH and Gomer Pyle. If you're going to do a show on the military, you don't mock it and make fun of it. Hunter, there's a show called Hunter. It's off my list. He tried to be a Dirty Harry character. It didn't work for me. Ironside, you had the Perry Mason figure, Raymond Burr. He's in Ironside. He's in a wheelchair solving crimes. Doesn't get my fancy on that one. I tell you what, I did like Lassie. That was on. Would you believe Lassie had over 600 episodes, I believe it was? No, close to 600 episodes of Lassie. And they used about 10 different dogs. The first 3 seasons were really good, and then it started to peter out with Timmy. But I liked Lassie. Lost in Space. They go out into space. They land on a planet. There's a monster. And then there's a robot. And then there's a doctor. And then you had Will Robinson, and you had the girls, and they had a beauty pageant in space, and they never come back home, and they never solve anything. I left it off my list. My favorite Martian, kind of done. NYPD Blue, good stories, real life stories of crime in New York. Problem is, the guy who held the camera was always shaking, shake. I couldn't get into that one. The Partridge Family, they sing a song after the end of every episode. Couple chuckles here and there. Party of Five, no parents, so it's just the five kids figuring out life's drama. Sorry, doesn't make my list. Peyton Place, that's just a soap opera. Policewoman, you had Angie Dickinson in that movie, or in that show as the main character. Sorry, not realistic. Even though I like Angie. Star Trek series, one of them is on my list, the original, but all these other ones, Deep Space Nine, Enterprise, Voyager, you've got Klingons and clones and droids and Ewoks. Couldn't get into all those other Star Trek. Star Trek Next Generation was okay. Some good stories there. The Terminator, Sarah Connors, didn't work. The movie worked, but the series didn't work. Walker, Texas Ranger, Chuck Norris, bad guy, takes him out. Kung Fu, kick him, shows off his ability with firearms. I think I left him off my list. How about Hercules and Xena and Zora? I think I have Hercules on my list. I'll see when I get here. Xena, she's overweight. And Zorro, the movie works, but the TV series didn't work. How about Westerns? Gunsmoke had over 600 episodes. Yikes. 600? Some stories are good, but way drawn out. The Big Valley did not have the spark I was looking for. Rawhide, the cattle. Every week, the cattle, moving them through. Didn't work. Wagon Train, where are they going? Maverick, too slick. The Virginian and Cheyenne, Wyoming. Couple stories, not bad. Okay. How about Little House on the Prairie? Too slow. And what's the word for a Little House on the Prairie? How about soft? F Troop, Branded, no. Rifleman I do have on my list. So frankly, I get offended really when a show doesn't have continuity, progression, and extension. Start off the show with a premise, introduce characters that you can identify with, and then proceed with the series and develop the series with continuity. And a lot of these shows they just rehash same scripts over and over. What intrigues me? I need to be captivated, I need to be charmed, I need to be enchanted, delighted, and compelled. And you got to perform and make it a satisfactory performance, okay? So let's get to my list. I listed a lot of the ones that I didn't like. But how about the ones that I do like? Let's start with number 50 and count down to number 1, okay? Here we go. Number 50 on my list. Favorite shows that I watch and that I was entertained and informed. The Three Stooges. You may say, Ken, isn't that kind of sappy? And Moe always poking Curly's eyes out, and Larry pulling his hair out. But I tell you what, I laughed. Especially the episodes when they, for example, there was a plumbing episode and they try to fix the pipes. And they fix the first one, and then the second one goes out. And when they fix the second one, the third one goes out, and they just keep going and going. And eventually the whole house floods. and then the ceiling drops, and there's a party, and the whole thing gets washed out. I couldn't stop laughing on that one. There was another one where there was a birthday party, and they had a big cake in the middle, and Moe and Curly, they bumped into the cake, and everybody said, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And Curly took a piece of cake and threw it in a woman's face and splattered her, and then the whole thing was a mayhem. I couldn't stop laughing on that one. And then Three Stooges, that was way back in the 40s and 50s. Why do I have them on my list? Because if you check it out, you'll see why. If you want a good laugh from a hard day's work, check out the Three Stooges. Okay, number 49 on my list, Jeopardy. Each week it's the same format, the questions and answers, but I was very informed by that show. So I put it on my list just because of the education. 48, America's Most Wanted. Each week, the bad guys, and they tell the story of why they're wanted, and that was an informative show. So it's not only the entertainment side that I'm looking for, but also educational side of TV shows. Number 47, Cops, real life stories of going into neighborhoods and whether it's family disputes or crime or burglary or rape or murder or theft. Cops. 46, I mentioned the Honeymooners, remember? But I put them on my list because it was funny. 45, Wanted, Dead or Alive. That was a Western show with Steve McQueen. And he was a bounty hunter, had to bring in the guys. That was a good Western. Better than some of the other ones that I'd mentioned. 44 on my list, I Love Lucy. Started in 1951. You had Ricky Ricardo and Ethel and Fred. And the best episode on that one is where they had William Holden in the restaurant. And Lucy wants to get a piece of him. And the cake or the pie flips over, and William Holden gets a pie full of face. I Love Lucy. That's a genuine comedy. Not like these other ones that are slapstick. I Love Lucy. Number 44. Number 43, Green Acres. In a sense, I'm a Green Acre guy because the wife wants to live in the big city with all the glamour, but the husband wants to live in the country with the farm. Green Acres is the place for me. 42 on my list, The Lone Ranger. Tonto and the Lone Ranger have to get the bad guys. Hi-Yo Silver. That was way back in the 50s. I enjoyed those episodes. Number 41 on my list, Lassie. First 3 seasons are good with the boy and Lassie. And Lassie not only could do tricks, but saves people's lives. There was a girl in a lake, little girl in the lake drowning. And Lassie jumps in, swims halfway out to the lake, grabs the girl, and pulls her all the way back in. And Lassie foiled a bank robber, and Lassie saved Timmy from the quicksand. And like I said, there were 600 episodes of Lassie. I put that on my list. Number 40 on my list, Batman. Adam West, Burt Ward series. They had the Joker and the Penguin and the Catwoman. It was kind of comedy, crime fighting. But I like the gadgets. I like Batman, and the villains were fun to watch. So Batman comes in at number 40 on my list. Counting down, number 39, The Adventures of Superman. This was the Christopher. This was a 1950s series, not the movies, but the television show. Clark Kent, Lois Lane, and jumping over tall buildings and a speeding bullet and crime fighting, working at the Daily Planet, The Adventures of Superman. With 38 on my list, Dragnet. That was Jack Webb, Harry Morgan. Again, I got the feel on that show of what cops had to go through and the detectives solving crimes. Dragnet. And another one was a similar show was Adam 12. The cops in the car patrolling the streets and getting the call. And whether it was domestic abuse or theft or burglary or murder, they had to show up on the scene and they show the police tactics of how they take guys down and bring them in. Adam 12. Number 36 on my list, The Rifleman. That was Chuck Connors. And he doesn't use a pistol, he uses his rifle. And he was in a small town, Norfolk. And the series progressed 5 or 6 seasons, and it progressed along where Lucas McCain and his son had to take care of the town of Norfolk from the bank robbers and bandits coming in. The Rifleman. How about this, number 35 on my list? Gilligan's Island. Gilligan, Marianne, Ginger, Mr. Howe, the skipper, Mrs. Howe, and of course the professor. There's a debate. Do you pick Ginger or Marianne as far as who you want to go out with? Hands down, Marianne wins every time. Gilligan, kind of goofy. The skipper, too fat. Professor, knowledgeable. The Howes just deal with money. But genuine laughs in that show. Gilligan's Island. They're on the island. Castaways. All right, number 34. Get Smart. You remember this show, Maxwell Smart and Agent 99? It's comedy, little goofy, but the episodes were fun. The villains, the gadgets. Get Smart comes in at number 34. Number 33, I Dream of Jeannie. You remember that one? Barbara Eden and Larry Hagman. The astronaut has a genie, and she does a lot of tricks and zaps people all over the place, and Dr. Bellows tries to figure it out. He's always getting caught up in the humor. I Dream of Jeannie. She blinks her eye. It's comedy, and it made me laugh, and I tuned in to watch it. I don't know why. Maybe I'm strange. Here's another one. Number 32 on my list, Bewitched. Samantha and Darren and the mother and Dora and Uncle Arthur. It gave me the laughs, especially when she uses her power. She twitches her nose and she zaps whatever situation to turn out to be good. Check out Bewitched. You may think I'm strange, but this is comedy that I like. Along with I Love Lucy, I Dream of Jeannie, Get Smart, Gilligan's Island. These are genuine comedy, not like Seinfeld and Frasier and Desperate Housewives and Third Rock from the Sun and Big Bang Theory. That's not comedy. This is genuine comedy. Bewitched. All right, let's get back down the list, counting down. How about number 31 on my list? Hercules, the legendary journalist, Kevin Sorbo, goes from town to town, village to village, and takes out the bad guys. Every episode has a fight scene. It's kind of funny to watch it. Hercules. Number 30 on my list, Band of Brothers. It was a documentary. I think they had 10 episodes, but very enthralling, really wartime stories. You're in the trenches with these guys. Band of Brothers comes on my list. Number 29, The Unit. This is a special unit that has to deal with the espionage and the covert situations of the FBI and the CIA. The Unit. That followed along very good. It had a good sequence of seasons from season 1 through episode 4 or 5, I believe it was. Follow that one along. Number 28 on my list, Baywatch. David Hasselhoff. You may say the pretty girls in bikinis, but it had good stories of saving people in the ocean or on the beach or whatever. And boat scenes, and you may say, come on, Ken, why do you have Baywatch on your list? Good stories. Check it out. 27, you're going to laugh at this one. Melrose Place. The uppity generation of those who post-college or pre-college, and they live in apartments, but they go through the real life situations, of dating, and the work environment and the home environment. Melrose Place. I'll have to admit I'm strange for watching that one. But good storylines. And another one, 26 on my list. Beverly Hills 90210. Now you're going to say, Ken, come on, you're getting ridiculous. But the stories were good. This was the high school years of teenagers, and you get a feel what they had to go through their schooling years. A lot of drama. Beverly Hills 90210. I admit I'm embarrassed, but I got them on my list. Number 25, Unsolved Mysteries. Robert Stack. Whether it was murder, rape, burglary, crime, missing, kidnapped persons. Check out Unsolved Mysteries. 24 on my list, The Time Tunnel. Only lasted 2 seasons. Scientists get zapped back into time. One episode is on the Titanic, another one on Lincoln's assassination, another one they end in the Cowboy Indians and all that. One episode they were in space. The Time Tunnel. Could have been developed a little bit better on that one, and they should have had a climax ending on that one, but kind of petered out. 23 on my list, The Invaders. Aliens coming to conquer the world, and only one guy has discovered them. And it was a strange show. It was in the 60s. David Vincent has to deal with aliens, see the spacecraft. Again, that one didn't really last as long, but it's an intriguing concept and got going for a little bit. Okay, 22 on my list. Star Trek: The Next Generation. Good stories. The captain and his crew, and they're in space, and they run into Klingons and all that, and there's wars in space, and The Missing Day was a good episode. Check that one out. Star Trek: The Next Generation. Okay, 21 on my list. 21, 20, and 19 are all the CSI series. You remember CSI Las Vegas, CSI New York, and CSI Miami. It's just crime stories, but well done, really thought out, and this was a very informative show for me. That's why I liked it. So at 21, CSI New York, Las Vegas. Number 20 on my list, CSI New York. And number 19, CSI Miami. Okay, number 18, LA Law. Very informative show, cases. And it got a little crude with the sexual innuendo When they veered off into that, they lost me. But when they got into court cases in the courtroom, and the judge and the district attorney and the prosecutors and defense attorneys and their clients, LA Law, very good. But even better than that was number 17 on my list, The Practice, one of my favorite shows. Small time lawyers have to deal with high profile cases. And many times there was twisted endings on that one. You think it's going to be a guilty or innocent verdict. And many times I thought it was innocent, and in the end it was guilty. And then in the next episode, I said, oh, guilty, hands down. And it turned out they were innocent. So The Practice, good show. Number 16 on my list, Criminal Minds. The BAU department investigate the crimes in cities, and they have to track down the killer, and they use sophisticated methods and computer analysis. Criminal Minds, a good show. Number 15, the original Star Trek. Yes. James Kirk, Spock, Dr. McCoy, and the laser beams, and they beam down into the country. One of the best episodes was where they go back into time, and the girl was going to attend a rally to stop the World War at that time. If she does go to the rally and stop the war, then the whole following generation of people would have been exterminated. But since Kirk and Spock prevented her from stopping the war, then a lot of lives were saved. Check out that series, Star Trek. Number 14 on my list, The Wild Wild West. Robert Conrad and Artemis Gordon, James West. A lot of fight scenes in that one. It was hilarious to watch the slick Wild Wild West time. Number 13, Third Watch. These are paramedics and firefighters who coordinate to save people in dangerous situations, whether car wrecks or burning buildings and all that. Third Watch was a good show. Number 12 on my list, Friday Night Lights. The Dillon, Texas, and the football coach, excuse me, and a lot of real life stories and situations there in Dillon, Texas, and the Friday night football games. Some seasons they win the title, and other seasons they don't. Number 11 on my list, Prison Break. First season, a brother wants to get into prison so he can save his other brother from the death penalty. And they stage an elaborate prison break. And 9 or 10 people join in on the break. And the conclusion of the first season was one of the best climax to a season I've ever seen. And then they continued on in season 2. They're on the run. And then season 3, Schofield's put back in prison and he needs to get out. And then season 4, the whole family and the mobster situation. Prison Break, quality show. Quality. Let's keep moving down on my list. Number 10, The X-Files. This was on for 9-10 seasons. Scully and Mulder have to deal with the FBI and the alien conspiracy, and is the truth out there or not? What is the truth? The X-Files. I've seen every episode of that series. Number 9, Lost. Unique concept. Plane crash, and they're stranded on an island, but this island is not what it seems to be. It's not just paradise, but it's got a lot of mysteries and conspiracies. Lost. That went on for 6 seasons. First 3 are good. Then it starts to fade. Then it picks up a little bit, and then the end was a letdown, but Lost. Number 8, Alias, Sydney Bristol. And this was a woman's show, and she gets the bad guys, and she disguises herself every episode. 5 seasons, Very, very well done and progressed along. That's what the key to the series is. You start off with a premise and you progress it, and then you come to a conclusion. Alias is one of the best ones. Number 7, Smallville. Clark Kent, Lois Lane, Lana Lane, Perry Mason, the parents. Uh, it's about Clark Kent and all his powers in the town of Smallville. And, the love story between Clark Kent and Lana Lane. And then in the end of the series, he chooses Lois Lane. Big mistake. I would have stuck with Lana. Of course, also in Smallville, you had Lex Luthor. And a lot of stories were quality written, and a lot of action scenes were just quality. Smallville, 10 seasons. I've seen every episode. Number 6 on my list, Bonanza. 1959 through 1973. They had 430 episodes. And you've got Ben Cartwright, Adam Cartwright, Hoss Cartwright, and Little Joe, and how they deal with the Western Wild West. A lot of gunfights, a lot of bar saloons, little love stories, romances. First 6 seasons are the best. And then Adam Cartwright rode off into the sunset. How could that happen? And also, they never really developed that all the 3 sons of Ben Cartwright would get married. Joe got married in season 14, and then they had an episode where they killed her off. So that really let me down. But Bonanza, one of my favorites. Number 5, how about this one? MacGyver. 7 seasons. A guy who doesn't use guns, doesn't use violence. He just uses imagination, sophistication, and gets out of all these jams by just thinking and using his smarts. MacGyver. Good written stories on that one. Number 4 on my list, The Twilight Zone. Rod Serling. Oh man, I could talk about that. There's 156 episodes. I wrote a book on that one, The Twilight Zone. Covered every episode. Mirror Image. 20,000 Feet. Nightmare at 20,000 Feet. How about The Invaders? The alien woman on the planet. And the spacemen come. They don't know what to do with her. Mirror Image was the identical twin. Do we all have a duplicate in this world? Oh, a lot of good stories in The Twilight Zone. Number 3 on my list, ER, 15 seasons. I saw every episode. Medical, very informative. Surgery, disease, everything you need to know about medicine was in ER, and the characters were good. Number 2 on my list, The Fugitive. Richard Kimball and Lieutenant Gerard, falsely accused, and the one-armed man. And what's unique about this show is he was on the run for 4 years, but the last 2 episodes, they have a climax. And the final confrontation with the one-armed man and Lieutenant Gerard, who relentless pursuit of Richard Kimball. The Fugitive, I wrote a book on that one. But number 1 on my list, you got it, 24. Why is that number 1 on my list? You take a premise, you start at midnight, and every episode for 24 episodes of the season is 24 hours in one day. And Jack Bauer, his wife and daughter are kidnapped, and he has to track them down. And you've got also the presidential primary in season 1, and you have to they're going to assassinate him, and Bauer is one of the agents to try to prevent the assassination. And every episode, for example, 12 midnight to 1 a.m., and the next one is 1 a.m. to 2 a.m., and so forth, all the way until 12 midnight the next day, 24 hours, and you have a whole season on that. And then season 2, they start off again, and this time there's a bomb in Los Angeles, and Jack Bauer has to find it out. And you have every episode is compelling with all the characters. And again, you have the presidential side, and you have politics, and you have the FBI and the CIA, and all the scripts are enthralling. And I remember one time I was watching, I believe, season 2, and it was 24 episodes in season 2. And I saw the first 6 episodes one day. Would you believe the next day I watched the following? Let's see, if there's 24 minus 6, 18 more episodes. And I watched it all the way because I had to find out what happened at the climax. Season 3, there's a virus. Season 4, there's the threat of a nuclear warheads destroying the season. Season 5, they have the assassination of the president. Season 6, the Chinese are infiltrated. Season 7, the White House is infiltrated. And season 8, you have, again, the threat of the whole government being taken down. Then they had a season 9, where they went to Great Britain. And every episode is a countdown and a build-up from the previous episode. You build, and you have a climax to the season. That's why I've got 24 on my list. All right, what do you think? The top 50. There's probably a lot of other shows I could have included. But for now, I'm just going to go with that. Television. What's it for? You turn on the tube, and why are you watching? Well, to get entertained, to get some enjoyment, to get some relaxation, and to identify with the characters that you're watching. It's fiction. And most importantly, to get informed what life is all about, huh? Okay, Ken Artizone, I'm going to sign out. Thanks for watching. I'm out.